Hi, my name's David Schaal. I'm an actor, writer and a poet.
At what age did you start to have an interest in acting, writing and poetry? And did you have any inspirations, icons or people that inspired you?
Well, the acting came first, and I was 19 years old, and I was doing A-levels at Stevenage College. I went back to education quite late because I left school at 16 without any qualifications. So I went back to Stevenage College where I grew up and started doing A-levels and some O-levels as well. And one of the O-levels that I did was drama, and also I was doing an A-level in English. I think it was English language literature combined, and it was whilst watching a production of The Caretaker starring Jonathan Pryce, Warren Mitchell and Kenneth Cranham. And I was watching this production and this little light just went on in my head and I went, oh my God, that's what I want to do for a living. So, but I was talking to my sisters today, and today is actually a very sad anniversary. It's the anniversary of my brother's death. I had a brother called Lloyd who died at the very young age of 17. But I remember going to see him in his school play, and he did a production of West Side Story in which he played Doc. And I think a little seed was sown in my mind when I saw that production.
Before acting, writing and poetry, was there anything else you did, or was there anything else you do now as well as those professions?
Well, I wouldn't claim to be a professional writer or a professional poet. Those are things that I do alongside my acting career. But before I was an actor, I was floundering. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I did a series of dead-end jobs, you know. I worked in a place called the Institute of Electrical Engineers in Hitchin. I did some bar work. I worked at, you know, Sunblessed bread factory. I mean, I just had no idea and no direction. And then the minute I discovered acting, that was it. I was off. Started auditioning for drama schools in London, and very fortunately got into one called Rose Bruford, which, for people who don't know, the most famous alumni of Rose Bruford are Gary Oldman and Stephen Graham. So, and there's also been a lot of other great actors that have come out of that drama school.
What role in acting have you found the most challenging?
It's a really good question. I did the film of the murder of Stephen Lawrence, which was directed by Paul Greengrass, who's now gone on to Hollywood to do the Bourne films, amongst other things. And we did this film about his murder, and I played the family liaison officer. And I remember Marianne Jean-Baptiste and Hugh Quashie were playing Neville and Doreen Lawrence. And when we came round to go into their house after their son had been murdered, it was like walking into, you know, what felt like the real situation. Marianne was crying her eyes out as Doreen, and we felt like, as the family liaison officers, we kind of really felt like we were intruding on their grief. And I remember sort of tiptoeing around, and there were a lot of other actors that were playing different family members, and they were all kind of glaring at us because we were the police, you know. So it was very realistic and beautifully shot by Paul Greengrass. So I was very lucky to be in that about such an important cause, you know.
What role in acting have you most enjoyed playing?
Well, I'd have to say Jay's dad in The In-Betweeners, because it's the thing that I'm the most known for, and it was the job that brought the most fun, because we got to go to Australia to shoot the second film, and that was a whole lot of fun. And I was actually the only one of the adults who got you know, written into the script. And in fact, I turned up, and one of the writers, Ian, said to me, and also at that point the co-director, Ian Morris, he said to me, "What are you doing here?" I said, "You've written me into this big scene that when Jay walks through the house, you know, when he's telling his fibs about how well he's doing in Australia." And he said, "Oh God, I meant to write you out of it. So there I was in Australia under false pretenses, and I managed to hang around there. I think we were filming for like a week, of which I think I did one day, and then I flew my then wife over, and we spent 3 weeks just cruising around the whole Sydney area, which was fantastic. Yeah.
I know this is the first time you've ever been away from me, but don't go crazy.
When have I ever gone crazy?
That time you drank all that shandy at Deborah's wedding, you went pretty wild.
I was 7 years old.
He was running around with his pants down, shouting, "I've got a white slug."
Mum!
Oh, hello, Kevin. Looks like just Jane we're waiting for, then.
Yes, it does look like that, doesn't it? God, sorry about her.
You all right, Neil? Your face is a bit weird.
Yeah, fine. Just popped a bit of my sister's fake tan on, get it started, you know. Just on your face? Well, it's on my hands now, too.
Right. Who's this then, the vicar?
Me? No, I'm Kevin. I'm Neil's father. Nice to meet you.
Where's Neil been hiding you then, the church? Looks like a bloody vicar, doesn't he?
Oh, no, I'm not a vicar.
No, I know that. But you look like a vicar, and you talk like a vicar. A bloody gay vicar or something.
Well, I'm not a vicar, and I'm not gay.
No, I'm saying you look gay. But you can't be, can you? Because old soppy bollocks here come out your pipe.
Right, I see.
Well, gotta get going. Don't want you to miss that flight.
Bye-bye, Pookie Prattle. I love you. Mwah.
Oh, and Jay, if you're going to spend your granddad's money chasing skirt, 2 things. 1, make sure she's not a hound like the last one. And 2, try to be a man when she dumps you for someone with a bigger cock. Which is everyone.
What have been some of the most challenging and also most enjoyable moments in your career as a writer?
Okay, well, I've been writing for many years, and I started doing it more as a hobby, and recently I've gotten serious, and I've just co-written a script called Heavenly Waters, which is about a old rock band in their 70s who go to Italy to scatter the ashes of one of their now deceased wives, and they discover that they were famous, and they didn't know that they were famous. So that's a film that's set in Italy that we're hoping to shoot probably next year. So that's been really good. I also wrote a gangster film called Back to Archway about a guy. It's sort of like Sexy Beast meets Get Carter. So this guy is the hitman for the Swales family. He's been living in Spain, sort of living in retirement, and then he discovers that his wife commits suicide. So he comes back to England for the funeral and discovers, in fact, she didn't commit suicide, she was murdered. So his whole journey is, going through who murdered her, and he's quite brutal as well. So those 2 films I'm getting people interested in, and we're hoping to shoot both of them in the forthcoming year or so. So as I say, I've gotten a bit more serious about writing now. So those are my 2 most enjoyable experiences. I've written a couple of plays that have been put on, one called Reality Chokes, about an old punk rock band, and another play called Brotherly Love, which is about these 2 estranged brothers. One of them's a recovering alcoholic, and they meet up and trouble ensues.
And what have been some of the most challenging and also most enjoyable moments in your career as a poet?
Okay, again, the word career I think is a little bit flattering, so I wouldn't say. Again, I don't make a living out of it. Acting is my main job. Writing is my secondary job, now getting serious. But poetry, I've been writing for years, and I've performed gigs at the Rebellion Punk Rock Festival up in Blackpool, because I was very much influenced by the poet John Cooper Clarke, who was around in the 70s and 80s, and also another poet called Seething Wells. So their kind of, attacking style of poetry, and, sort of taking it out of the middle class arena and making it far more accessible. I think John Cooper Clarke was probably a big influence on modern day spoken word poetry, and also, maybe even the rap scene, because a lot of his poems like Chicken Town and Kung Fu International, poems like that, he puts to music, and they sort of sound like rap records when you hear them. In fact, one of them was on The Sopranos, I think Chicken Town they used on The Sopranos. So yeah, so he's very much my influence. Also, other poets I love are people like Charles Causley, Philip Larkin, Dylan Thomas. So I've been into poetry for years, but you know that's more of a hobby than a career, I would say.
Which members in the industry have you enjoyed working with?
Oh wow! Well, I've worked with a lot of fantastic actors. I mean, all of the In-Betweeners actors I've really enjoyed working with. Outside of the In-Betweeners, I worked with David Bradley when I was in America. Worked with Alan Armstrong, Zoe Boyle. I've been lucky enough to work with some great people. Helen McCrory I worked with just before she died, but she was lovely. She was a joy to work with. Who else have I worked with? I did a film years ago with Michael Winner and got shouted at for many hours, and I worked with an actor called Rufus Sewell and also the fantastic Leah Williams, and I've just worked with Rufus Sewell again, so we were reminiscing about being shouted at and abused by the late Michael Winner. So yeah, in this film that I've just done called The Trouble with Jessica, I worked with Olivia Williams and Rufus, who are both in The Father. Worked with Shirley Henderson, another American actor called Alan Tudyk, who's in Resident Alien. So I've been very lucky to work with some great people.
Are there any new people you would like to work with in the future?
Any new people? I'm really bad at knowing who the up-and-coming actors are until they suddenly turn up on my film set or my TV set. So I worked with an actor recently called Jonathan Livingston, who was fantastic, who was in the Michaela Cole's first series. Is it called Chewing Gum? I think it's called Chewing Gum. And he was lovely. He was great to work with. But I really don't know who the younger actors are, to be honest, because I'm so old now. I only have my finger on the pulse when I'm actually working. So I'm sure there are millions of new actors I would love to work with. If you're asking me who would I love to work with still, I would say Stephen Graham. It's probably too late to work with De Niro and Pacino and those guys, but I wouldn't mind. If there's an opportunity to work with De Niro, I'd probably say yes.
Is there any role or character you wish to play?
That's a great question. Well, on stage, I'd love to play Leparkin in The Cherry Orchard. It's a play I've always loved. I'd love to play Uncle Vanya. Went to see that production with Toby Jones recently. Ended up sitting next door to Ian Rickson, the director of the production, and he actually remembered me because I'd auditioned for him some years ago. So there's a lot of theatre parts I'd love to play. TV and film, I would love to be in Peaky Blinders. I would love to be in something like Ozark. So those kind of hard-hitting dramas. I particularly like American dramas. I mean, my favourite shows are Sopranos and Breaking Bad. And also there was a fantastic show on HBO called Deadwood, which was about the evolution of America, you know, during the cowboy times, and that was a fantastic show. David Milch, I think, was the writer-director on that. So, and in terms of The Sopranos, I've been listening to the podcast that Michael Imperioli and Steve Schirripa do, and they had David Chase on there, who was the creator of The Sopranos, and it would be lovely to work with him on something. Sadly, it's not going to be The Sopranos, but it'd be great to work with David Chase or even Michael Imperioli. He's such a great actor as well. So there are billions of people I'd love to work with, to be honest.
Are there any other forms of media or different type of career you would like to try in the future?
That's a good question. I've often thought about doing a podcast because everyone seems to be doing them. I would never give up acting because that's my first love. But I think maybe doing a podcast or, you know, even being a radio presenter. I don't think I want to be a TV presenter because, you know, if you look at James Corden's career, you know, he's gone over to America and he's basically a chat show host. I mean, I think that's a whole different trajectory, you know. I wouldn't mind, you know, presenting a music program on radio or something like that, but I don't think I want to do a career change. You know, I love what I do, but by way of a diversification for a short period of time, I think some kind of presenting might be fun. Try my hand at.
As a member of the industry, how do you feel your career has progressed over the years? With a career again.
Career. Can you even call an acting career a career? There is no progression, there's no logic. You know, you can be a regular character in something one week and then you don't work for a while. You know, after the In-Betweeners, I sort of had a bit of a lull, and then you sort of make a comeback, and I went to America, did some stuff over in America, things like Frontier and You're the Worst, and also The Strain, where I ended up working with a lot of English actors. So I go all the way to America and I work with David Bradley, Alan Armstrong, Zoe Boyle, all those actors I mentioned before, and also Chris Gere, who was the lead in You're the Worst. So I go to America and end up working with 4 top-end English actors. Oh, and also, actually, I did a movie over there, which is now on Netflix, called A Call to Spy, and I worked with Linus Roach and a couple of other lovely English actors as well. So there are a lot of Brits in LA all doing the same stuff. So it's hard to talk about a career because, you know, you can do one really big job, you can get a lot of attention, and then it can just die on you. So you're kind of constantly having to resurrect yourself, you know, to reinvent yourself, to stay relevant. And that's my American manager always used to say to me, David, you got to stay relevant. Whatever you do, stay relevant. So whenever I talk to him, I say, am I still relevant, Stephen? I think COVID's kind of killed it a little bit, to be honest, in America. Things are very quiet out there at the moment, so I'm looking forward to that all picking up again.
And what would you say are some of the advantages and disadvantages of the industry?
Well, the main advantages of doing what you love is that you never feel like you work a day in your life. And, you know, and when you do get paid well, it's great, but most actors I know are struggling. So the disadvantages are financially it's difficult to sustain a living, which is why most actors have second, third, fourth, fifth strings to their bow. But when you do get paid and you get in something really high profile, it can be life-changing. You know, so if you were to get into a big TV series in America and it ran for 7 seasons, you know, that could literally change your life and you may never have to work again after that. But for me, it's never been about money or prestige or anything like that. It's always been about the work, you know, because I've, you know, initially fell in love with theatre, and then film and TV have kind of been a byproduct of my love of theatre, really.
What advice would you have for anyone looking at working as an actor, writer, poet, or any other profession?
Well, as an actor, I would say get trained. These days there are lots of different courses. You know, there's still a good argument for going to drama school for 3 years, although not everybody does it like that anymore. I think the American model of, you know, getting a bit of training, say for 6 months or something, and then going out into the industry, that's being copied here. And I work for a drama school called The Real Scene, who are doing exactly that. You know, they've got a 3-month course, a 1-year course, even a 1-week course called The Event, where, you know, we put actors through their paces, and after that, some of them, you know, get agents and stuff. So there are a lot more creative ways of getting into the industry. You can do it through social media now. You know, you can write and star in your own web series. But in terms of the mainstream world of acting, I think you still have to go to a reputable drama school, be good at what you do, be ready, You know, the industry's much harder now. You've got to be off book for every audition that you go for. Back in my day, you could still go in with the script and read, but those days are long gone. You know, it's like LA now, and you can have 4 or 5 auditions a week, although everything's done on self-tape now. So my main advice is work hard, get training, and be ready. So when that opportunity comes, make sure you're in a position where you can take it.
Okay, thank you very much for your time today, David.
Pleasure.